PowerPoint I'm using this one. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for having me today at Hope. Hope you guys are having a great afternoon. I'm very glad to be here and share my experience of traveling around the world, talking to you about our programs in Asia, and hopefully giving you some delicious food to taste. So I just want to give you a little bit of a background, extending on what Karen told you about myself. I was born and brought up in India, moved here to go to Georgia State, did my undergrad and master's in finance, worked in investment banking, and then realized that my passion was in planning those vacations that I was looking forward to every quarter, not the actual work I was doing. So that's how it started, and I started traveling just for fun, staying in hotels, eating at restaurants, picking up guidebooks. And after going to 30-some countries, I realized that there was something missing. The whole experience was becoming very repetitive. You know, you always go to the exact same tourist attractions that everybody else has pictures in front of and come back with the same stories. So I wanted to still continue to travel, but have a more meaningful experience when I do that and learn about the real culture. I don't want to come back from Russia and say, well, I saw the Red Square and I ate at this tourist trap restaurant and all Russians were communists. And you know, I want to have a more deeper experience with the people. So I started doing volunteer vacationing, which is when I would travel somewhere, I'll stay for a week and help out in the community, stay with other volunteers in a house and have home-cooked meals, and just have this deeper relationship with the local people where they can tell me how they live, what they experience, what their wants are, where they go to eat at the local restaurants, and how they eat at home. So that's kind of how Go Eat Give was born, because I went from just traveling, eating, and then to volunteering, and then realized that there was a lot of other people who wanted to do that too. All my friends would reach out to me and say, well, you have a really good vacation, and we went to France, but we never experienced the same things that you did. So then I started taking people with me on the volunteer trips, and we partner with other organizations, all nonprofits, so we can send them volunteers on an ongoing basis, support their projects, plus the proceeds, some of the portion of the trip also goes back into investing in those projects. So that's a little bit of our story, and feel free to ask questions anytime. Go Eat Give was founded in 2011. It was started with a blog site. A lot of you might have heard of all these blogs coming up. It was a way for me to document my travels and tell people where to go, what to do. But we were born as a nonprofit, a 501c3, because people were reaching out to us and saying, well, you are doing good for the greater good of people, so we perceive you as a nonprofit, and how can we send in donations? So our mission is to tie the intercultural bonds between different cultures here in Atlanta and also around the world. So here what we do, well, let's talk about some of the organizations we support. In Indonesia, we work with the Bali Children's Project. It's a program that helps kids in village schools, kids in the villages to go to school, and we also help build them toilets, provide them nutrition, sanitation classes. Veena here, she went with me to Bali last year, so that's actually the first time we met, and now she's on our board. We work with a village cooperative in Kenya, helping women start their own businesses. So it's like a micro-enterprise, but when the volunteers go back, they stay at those hotels started by the women, eat at the restaurants that they're running, and shop at the stores that they have, and continue that teaching too with them. We work with Volunteer Initiative in Nepal. It's a project where you can stay with a host family or a hotel, work in the village, teach them about healthcare, women's empowerment issues, or you can go to primary school, teach there, and you can stay for a week, up to 3 weeks. I've seen people stay as long as 3 months. They go trekking, come back, do some more volunteer work, and then keep going back. We work with Wonton in Spain. It's a conversational English teaching program, and you stay with the Spaniards for a week in a now, and all you're doing is speaking in English for 10 hours a day. It's a tough job. We also have a trip to Cuba 3 times a year, and that's working with the organic farm. This is one of the only organic farms that's owned by the people. It's a co-op, and we go and help them out on the farm doing anything they want us to do. We just had a group come back last Saturday, and they planted mango trees and picked out lettuce, and they sell everything to local restaurants, and they jar and pickle and sell those things too. We also worked in a women's empowerment center in Morocco. Locally, we have also done destination dinners. So that's what Karen was saying, that she came to the Ethiopia one. We've done 20 dinners so far, where every month we pick a different country and we bring in speakers and artists and have it at a restaurant that's generally owned by an immigrant or a refugee. And you come to the restaurant, have a very great multiple course meal, listen to the speaker about the culture or political aspect. In this case, it was the Carter Center talking about their programs in Ethiopia. So we do those every month, and our next one is coming up next week on Turkey, May 15th. So we have some flyers on the table if you want to take a look at that. Also, all the volunteers we have, when they travel, they have to do mandatory community service a third of the time. So when they go on a program to Cuba, they're also having fun. They're going on a cooking class and a salsa dancing class, to the Hemingway Museum, a walking tour of Havana, to the cigar factory, but they are required to do a third of the time volunteer work with our partner organization. So we've done about 2,000 hours of community service so far just on those programs. We also have a blog. We continue to have the blog, Go Eat Give, which was, awarded the top 5 most influential blogs in the world by the Foundation of Florence a couple of years ago. So this is just some pictures from our events locally. This is the one we did for Afghanistan. How many of you know that there's an Afghan restaurant in town? Oh, 2 people. Which one? Sort of. This one we had, it was on Roswell Road, Sandy Springs, Ariana, and we found that there are maybe 1 or 2 Afghan restaurants in town. When we had this event, we brought in Robin, who's standing there. She is an American lady who actually works in Kabul, and she came and talked about her experience of what it is for a woman, an American woman, to go and live there and work there alongside the Afghans. She's been there 5 years. And then we had Sanam Studios back here, so they did Afghan folk dancing for us. So I had never seen Afghan folk dancing, never even knew that existed, but it was beautiful. We had, this one was for Nepal at Himalayan Spice Restaurant, who's also provided the food for tonight, for this afternoon. We had Tibetan refugee kids perform. Now, are you guys aware of the refugee community here in Atlanta? There's a huge Tibetan and Nepali population, especially in Stone Mountain area. So we had some of the high school students come and perform. And a lot of people who came to the event, they did not know that we have such a big refugee population from Asia. So that's a way for them to learn about what's going on here in the city too. This is a Kenyan event. Anybody know of a Kenyan restaurant here? Yes? Which one?
The one in Marietta.
In Marietta. I don't know that one. Tell me.
Yeah, there's one up there. It's on Franklin Road.
Okay. Well, if you think of the name, let me know. This one was Dalo at Stone Mountain, and it's run by 3 generations of women. The youngest one does all the cooking. She's 22. And they brought in their food, which is amazing if you haven't tried Kenyan food before. And we had tied up with the Kenyan Professional Association, who did a demonstration for different instruments that they use in the dancing. And we talked about our programs in Kenya. All of our programs somehow break into dancing at the end. So if you come experience that, you will see. Especially the next one, Turkey, I'm pretty sure there will be dancing. This is the one for Lebanon at Nicola's restaurant. And this is Nicola himself. He's maybe 70 years old, and he still balances a bottle of wine on his head and gives us a demonstration on Lebanese dance. This is the Kenyan chef I was talking about, Indalo. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Nepal and Indonesia today because that is the focus of our theme. When you think of Nepal, what comes to your mind? Everest, yes? Mountains?
Dalai Lama.
Dalai Lama? What else? All right, well, these are kind of representative of what generally people think about when they think of Nepal. It's a lot of mountains and trekking and Everest, a lot of Buddhist monasteries, although Nepal is mostly Hindu. So what we do is take people on these trips and do the mythbusters. You know, so you may think of a country in a certain way, especially these countries that we are going to, Nepal or Cuba or Indonesia, in Bali especially, and we bust all the things that you knew about it. Because we are so integrated into the culture, you're spending time with the locals pretty much all day long, whether they invited for lunch or dinner to join you or you're doing volunteer projects. And over the course of the week, especially for me, it's interesting to see how people come with one perception of the country and they leave with another, and they just feel like, I didn't know anything about anything. So here are some of the mythbusters that we encountered in Nepal. People generally associate it with Dalai Lama or with Buddhism and the monasteries, but only 10% of Nepalis are Buddhist. 90% of them are Hindu. Actually, Hinduism and Buddhism is practiced at the same temples. So when you see the Hindu temples or the Buddhist monasteries, either of those religions can go and practice their religions, which was something very interesting for me to see there. And you can tell by the statues, you'll see the Buddhas. There's a Buddha on there, but then there are the Hindu mythology statues engraved on the same temple. When the landlords have their crops, they first donate it to the poor. So you can see oftentimes during harvest time, going to the temples, you see people are donating the food. Always the first harvest is donated. So that's a big culture of giving in their culture too. Married women always wear red clothing. So that was something different for me to see. I was at this women's empowerment meeting, and I'm like, why is everybody wearing red? I didn't get the memo. This is not Coca Cola. But they all, once you're married, you have to put the tikka, sindoor, in the middle of your head, part of your hair, and then you have to wear red clothing. The cuisine of Nepal is very much influenced by its neighbors, so Tibet and India. That's why you go to any restaurant in Nepal, you see almost like two different menus. One says momos, noodles, dumplings, soups, and the other says chicken tikka masala and saag paneer and naan. You're like, where is the Nepali food? But that's pretty much what it is. And traditionally, Nepalis would eat at home dal bhat sabji, which is lentils, rice, and vegetable. Because it's 90% Hindu, a lot of people are vegetarian. Beef is illegal. If you do get meat, it's a buffalo meat. These are the Tibetan style dishes at the restaurant. So if you go to Himalayan Spice, you'll see both of them. It's the only Nepali restaurant here in town. There are over 30,000 Tibetan refugees living in Nepal, and this is just in Pokhara area that is by the lake. I didn't know, again, something new I learn every time, but a lot of them have family members living in the US, so they support them, send money back to build houses, toilets, and the women make their own jewelry and sell it in the markets. Monasteries in Nepal are similar to boarding schools. They are not religious schools, but they are just like a regular private school where anybody would send their kids to if they want a better education. Most of the monasteries are only for boys. So they do have to learn a little bit about Buddhism. They do an hour of chanting, but they also do martial arts. They learn English, science, math, just like every other school kid does. They have to live there though. And the programs that we have, you actually get to work at the monastery. You can live there and you can teach the kids. You can wake up with them and participate in all their activities. Many school teachers in Nepal have not completed high school degrees themselves. Another interesting fact to know once you start doing the volunteer work and you're telling the teachers, well, let me show where you left off, or what's your program syllabus for right now. And as you're talking to them, you realize that they don't even have a high school degree, and here they are teaching the next generation of kids. So another opportunity for anybody looking to do long distance volunteering is to help those kids. The teachers help with the curriculums and maybe mentor them. Another thing to do if you want to take just the summer off, if you have an educational background. But just keep in mind, all of you have an undergrad or a master's degrees. You can still teach the kids a lot more. Staying with the host family enhances a lot of cultural experience. How many of you have stayed with host families when you've traveled? Yeah, a few people have. Well, I know it's difficult to find people in every country, and if you are traveling for just vacation, you don't want to feel obligated to sit with them and have dinners and interact with them. This is the family in Nepal. He's just a farmer right here, and he opens his house for people to come and stay, and they help out in the village. He provides meals for them for $6 a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if you don't mind not having running water, electricity, this is a great place for you to escape. His wife cooks all the meals, so eating what they eat at home is very different than what you get in the restaurants. Like I said, it's a very simple diet: lentils, rice, and vegetables, hardly any meat. They generally eat one big meal in the morning and then go to the farm and come back in the evening and eat early supper. But it's nice, you can sit with them and chat and cook and learn their traditional recipes. We have, in addition to the recipe that you have on your table, we have more recipes on the website on goitgift.com. So highly encourage you to take a look. If you go to the blog section, you'll see all the recipes that we cooked today. There's going to be chicken cholia, a traditional Nepali dish, which is sort of like your chicken, chili chicken, which you might have had in an Indian restaurant, with a little bit more spices. You have chaat, aloo chaat, which is basically a very popular snack food in India, Nepal, and South Asia. People would sell that on the streets. It's considered street food, something you eat between meals. It's very, very delicious. Probably not the healthiest dish to eat. It's a lot of fried food, but lots of sauces. It's yogurt and tamarind chutney and mint chutney and potatoes and garbanzo beans all mixed in together. So it makes for a great snack if you want to do a party too. And then what I'm going to be cooking for you today is Gado Gado. That's Indonesian green beans. And that's the recipe you have in front of you, so you can follow along while you're cooking. But you'll get a chance to sample all of the dishes that we talked about. And if you go to the Go Eat Give website, you can get recipes for what we have today and also a lot more. So this is our cooking class in Bali that we do whenever we go on the trips. So I just wanted to give you a background of what we are cooking here with what we are actually cooking in Bali. So we'll start cooking doing the demonstration, but you will also get to see the pictures alongside of what we're doing our cooking class in Bali. And this is a recipe actually I learned in Bali from a home chef. The lady there owns the Bound Bali Cooking School, and she invites people to her home for a class. Her husband picks you up at the hotel or in the market, takes you to the farmer's market, you pick up all the groceries, and you see the different vegetables and the fruits they sell there. Then you know the rice paddies, you learn about how rice is harvested. You actually see all the rice paddies that the people own and what's the process, how they sell it. Pretty much Balinese people consume all the rice that they grow. It's not available in the market here. And then we go to her house in the countryside and we cook for about 5 hours. We made 11 dishes last time and drank a lot of bintang, which is the local beer, and Veena can vouch for that. Alright, so what I'm going to do is, this is a very easy dish to prepare. It's called Gado Gado, or Indonesian green beans. It has, your basic ingredients are green beans, which you can get in any store. Bean sprouts, you have not seen those before. They're easy to get at any farmer's market or Publix or stores. You have tomato, ginger, garlic. Now traditionally we use galangal, which is the Asian style of ginger. It's I couldn't find it, but it's a little bit darker and longer. You generally get it at the farmer's market, but they just don't have it at this moment. We use coconut oil for the preparation, so we are not using canola oil or olive oil, but if you don't like the flavor of coconut, you can always use olive oil as well. Peanuts. Now, notice these are not your salted Planters peanuts. They are just the raw peanuts with the shells on, not salted. That has a lot more flavor. And we have Indonesian sweet soy sauce, so feel free to go take a look at this later on too. This is not your regular soy sauce too, it's not the Japanese kind, it's a sweet soy sauce. So it's slightly different in flavor. And we have red chilies. So anybody afraid of chilies here? Okay, very good, it's a good crowd. So we have dried red chilies. Now if you think that is too hot for you, you can open them up and take the seeds out. If I have used the whole red chilies in the recipe you're going to try today. We have macadamia nuts, just a couple of these. Again, not the salted kind. Some lime, and tofu, cucumber, and we have cabbage. So the first thing I'm going to do is fry my peanuts. Take a little bit off the coconut. Take a spoonful of the coconut oil. And somebody asked me, why is this coconut oil solid and not liquid? Because you do get a couple of them. It's just how it's sold. Maybe it was kept refrigerated so it solidifies, but it's essentially the same thing. You can use either one. You want to make sure that your pan is hot. So once the oil gets in there, it immediately starts to bubble, and then you put your peanuts in there. So notice we are not roasting peanuts, which is most recipes do. We are frying them. Can you tell the difference?
Amount of oil?
Yes. Very good. You're using a little bit more oil to fry it. We're not roasting it. For roasting, we probably use just a teaspoon of olive oil. And this is going to be our base for the sauce. So the sauce is made of peanuts, macadamia nuts, some tomatoes, ginger, garlic, and let's see, the red chilies, soy sauce, and lime juice. The sauce is something you can make ahead of time. You can make it a couple of days before and put it in the fridge. You can also put it in the freezer and store it for much longer and use it for different dishes. So I've used it as a seasoning for meat. If I want to do a grill, I've used it as a salad topping. Just a dressing, you'll see it doesn't look anything like the peanuts now. It's sauce consistency. Or you can use it for your veggies or your fish or chicken, whatever you're sauteing, just a couple of teaspoons and mix the sauce in. It's very versatile. So the peanuts are going to fry for maybe 3 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes till it's brown, and depending on the quantity you're using too. Here we are just cooking about 4 serving sizes, so what you're reading in your recipe is exactly the measurements that we are doing. Meanwhile, we'll cut our cabbage. You can see that. This is a Korean cabbage, but you can use any kind. The reason I like this one is it's very soft and it just kind of melts in your mouth. It doesn't take very long to cook it. Even if you don't cook it, you use it raw, it will still be fine because it will just have like a salad kind of crunchy consistency. So I'm going to shred this very thin, just like you would do it for a salad. Any questions so far?
What kind of knife are you using?
I have a santoku knife, which is a Japanese chef's knife. It's worth the investment. You don't need any other knife when you have that. It goes from vegetables to meat. Should really be a spokesperson for them. So here I have a boiling pot of water, which I have prepared already for the cabbage. So the cabbage is not going to boil, it's just going to go in for about a minute or 2. Let's see. And I will put my bean sprouts in there too. So our goal there is just to blanch it, not to cook it. Need a little bit more water. The secret ingredient is tasani. Alright, so our cabbage is going to cook for about a minute. The peanuts are fried. And you can use any food processor for this or a blender. Or in Bali, what we did was we used a hand mixer. So it was a mortar and pestle. And we basically use our arm force and keep making the paste, grinding the peanuts till they become paste consistency.
How long does that take?
It takes a while, but you'll be surprised. Those ladies are pretty used to it. They have very strong upper body strength. So this is where we were in the food market, learning about the different fruits and vegetables. And the lady who does the cooking class, her husband, he runs the food tour and the rice paddies tour. Do you recognize that fruit?
Mangosteen?
Yes, very good.
Has anyone ever tried mangosteen?
Delicious.
It's really delicious and it's really expensive.
Yes.
And it's hard to find in the U.S. If
I have
anyone-
not seen it here.
Yeah, if anyone finds one, let me know.
People have it.
Yeah?
They have
Okay, Dawn's gonna bring me something from farmer's market.
This weekend actually. If they have
Let me show you another quick trick with garlic. So a lot of times, you take the whole cloves of garlic and then you're peeling them, and then it takes a lot of time. Just have a quick fix with it, because you have a nice chef's knife. So just give it a little bit of a push, and the skin just comes out. You can see that, right? So you're going to use 2 cloves of garlic. All goes in here, so you don't even have to chop it. We use a 1-inch piece of the ginger, and it's important to use fresh ginger for this, although you do get your paste, ginger paste or ginger powder, but it doesn't have the same flavor. There you go, ginger. We are going to put half a tomato in there, and the tomato also adds some liquid consistency to it. the macadamia nuts. Anybody here has nut allergies? No?
You didn't ask that for peanut. Most people has peanut allergy.
Yes, any nuts.
But, so what?
Peanuts, macadamia nuts.
Yes.
You do have? Alright, so we're gonna put our nuts in there a little bit at a time. Add a little bit of water in there. So that's the process where they're doing with the mortar and pestle for a good half an hour, I'd say. Or you can use the blender and do it in 5 minutes. So you just add a little bit of water if you need it. If you have a very high power blender, you probably won't even need water. And the rest of our peanuts go in there. You want to open it up from time to time and check it. This looks like it needs a little bit more. You can see that. It shouldn't be chunky like that. It has to be a little bit more pasty. Move it around a little bit. Auntie Puspa would say just use your own strength. Come here. Can you hold this?
Yes. Now
I'll
I'm not a
just
gifted
I
chef.
can get
so-
the cabbage out. The cabbage is cooked, blanched for about a minute. You don't want it to be boiled, otherwise it will lose its crispiness. So you guys started eating. How was the food? We're gonna put our bean sprouts in there and blanch it for a minute or so too.
Is there a reason you don't blanch them together?
You can, just my pot was small,
Oh.
but yeah, you can.
Good reason.
How's that looking?
Still looks a little chunky.
Yeah, it's still a little chunky. Add a little bit more water, and then you have to give it another go. So in the meantime, I'm going to peel my cucumber and slice it very thinly. The cucumber is not going to be cooked, but it's going to go at the very end and be mixed in with the veggies. slice my cucumber really thin. You can see that.
Oh, gosh.
Should be done. Yes, yeah, I think it's looking much better now. You don't want any chunky pieces in there. You want it all pasty. So if there are chunky, you want to continue to blend it a little bit more. And then we're going to put a little bit of coconut oil in our pan, which is still warm. That's where we're going to fry our tofu. Everybody here likes tofu? Here is a firm kind of tofu. Because we are frying it, we want to use a firm variety. And then once you drain the water out, let it sit on paper towel for about 5 minutes. Or you can just press it and drain the water out. So you don't want the water in there when you put it with the oil and it's going to all splatter. Let's see, here are some pictures of us visiting the temples in Bali. So like I said, all our programs have a very all-encompassing itinerary. We do visit the tour attractions, but we also are taking a 5-hour-long cooking class, a 5-hour-long batik painting class, and going to authentic restaurants, volunteering in the community. You have free time to go to the spa or the markets. And it's just a lot of fun. We have a guide, a local person who's telling us about the temples and the history. We go to the monkey forest. There are like thousands of monkeys. You've been there, right? Thousands of monkeys all over your head. Nina was traumatized.
They will come up and take stuff out of your purse.
Yes.
If you're not careful, if you have any
They
do it
will.
at all.
We saw the monkey just take a hat off the kid's head, and the kid started crying. So I'm going to cut the tofu into small cubes. I'm going to slice it across and then cut it into fifths. So you have little cubes. You can cut it smaller if you want. And once the oil is hot, we're just going to put it in there and fry it till it's a medium brown. The oil should be sizzling. We need to give it another minute. Here's us going to hiking in the waterfalls. We do yoga and meditation in Bali for an hour and a half every day. And if you've never tried yoga, which most of the people who come on our trips have never done yoga, after that they get addicted. They have so much more energy, and we start at 7 o'clock in the morning from 7 to 8:30, and it doesn't feel like a long day after you start the yoga practice. Every day it's a different teacher, so you also get to experience different styles of yoga and meditation, and it's a beginner's class. So you're overlooking the rice paddies, you're in the middle of the beautiful tropical island, and it's just, even if you don't want to practice yoga, you would want to. I don't do it once I get back to Atlanta, unfortunately. It's all stays in Bali. But that's all included in our program, the hour and a half of yoga every day. This is the batik painting class that we do. Batik painting is a very traditional art in Bali. It basically is like the blue pieces of cloth you see in the back. When we enter the class, we are given this white piece of tapestry, and they said, well, at the end of it, it's going to look like that. And the first time I did that, I was like, you're joking, that's never going to happen, not in one day. That takes an artist about a week to do something like that. But yes, we did have something very close to it. We start off with a white piece of cloth doing wax stamping. So they have some designs on these hot iron rods, and you dip it in hot wax and stamp it. Then you start painting it with all natural colors made of flower dyes. And then once you let the paint dry, then you have to dip it in hot water, boil it, and there's a whole process, and then you paint it again, and it all changes color. So the background becomes blue, and then your painting pops out, and by the end of it, you have this beautiful piece of tapestry that you want to go sell it. It's a good souvenir to bring back too. So notice here my tofu is frying. And you just kind of want to let it stir every couple of minutes or so it browns evenly on all sides. My sprouts are also done, so I just want to remove them from the hot water. And we'd probably put some cold running water under it, under the sink. That would add some shine and gloss.
I never cooked sprouts. How do you know that they're ready?
Sprouts are actually like almost like a salad, so you can eat it raw if you want. When you cook it, you still want to keep it al dente. It's a little bit crispy. So basically, you don't really need to cook sprouts that long. You can stir fry them, or you can just steam it for a couple of minutes. So once our veggies are done, our green beans, and you can, if you have several pots, you can have those going simultaneously. The green beans probably take the longest to cook. They need to be completely boiled, but still a little crispy. And while the tofu is cooking, our peanut sauce also needs to cook for maybe 5 minutes or so. So once you have the sauce, you're going to put it on a saute pan, and we'll do that after the tofu. Add our soy sauce. Remember, sweet soy sauce? Some salt and lime juice. So I put about 1 lime juice, but I keep a couple extra on hand. So just in case the flavor is too strong, let's say the red chili was stronger, then or the peanuts were too many, and you can adjust the seasoning as you go. You can add a little bit more lime juice and tone it down. We also participate at family temple celebrations, which if you go to Bali or India or any of these places where there's a lot of temple celebrations, you're not really allowed to go in unless you're part of the family. In Bali, they have 3 temples per capita. So it's a family temple, a house temple, plus a community temple. So the community temple is open to the public, you can go there, but the family temple is reserved for members of the family, which may be 50 to 100 people. And because we volunteer with the Bali Children's Project, they invited us to a celebration happening at their temple, which is held every 6 months to a year. And this is, well, you're like family because you're working with us, and come and celebrate. And these are the local kids from the family that perform the dancing. We have a video for this too. It's 8 to 10-year-old girls who wear the traditional Balinese dances, and they have been practicing since they were 3 years old. So it's really fun to see
Not this
that.
video, right?
No, the previous one? Maybe it's not there now. Okay. Well, we can show you the next video. The next one is the video. So just, it was a very enriching experience to see that, participating in the temples and seeing all these dances up close, because you can go to the concert and see it, but seeing them up close I know they've the parents of these kids. They were right there. And then we went later on to the community center and watched them practice. And we could get out and dance with them. Dare not try. It's beautiful. We have some videos on it on goigive.com. If you go, we have a YouTube site. You'll see a lot of videos from the temple ceremonies and the volunteer trips that we have done. Next one. This is volunteering with the Bali Children's Project, and you see these are classrooms in the villages. So the government has recently funded them to build these classrooms and concrete schools. But when I asked them, where can I go wash my hands or use the bathroom, they said we don't have any toilets. So here are about 200 kids in school and there is no toilet. So they go out in the fields and they eat with their hands, they clean themselves with their hands. That's the traditional culture. And they bring back all the germs. The kids get sick. Here we were educating them about nutrition, sanitation, properly washing your hands, and like, where are we supposed to do it? And then even if there was a hose pipe you could use to pour water, but then there's no soap and no towels. So that's the project we are working on this year, is to build the toilets, at least have the sinks set up and provide soap to the whole soap project, and be able to continue that education with the kids. Next slide. All our volunteers who go to these projects, we divide them into different teams or individuals. They're asked to prepare a workshop that they're going to deliver to all of the students, and you'll do that over and over in different classrooms for the time of day. So these are classrooms from grade 1 to 5, and you go and do maybe a 20-minute class and then go to the next class and the next one. So we ask the volunteers to prepare something that they are interested in. It could be fitness, it could be healthy eating, or nutrition, or like I said, sanitation programs. So this is a class that we were doing with fitness, and one of our volunteers was teach them about how to stay fit, or we did a class about not eating too much candy and the things that are good for you and not good for you. So the kids were very excited about that. And then we also went to the villages where they live. So the school is a little bit outside of the village, but we also went to the houses to see where they live and met with the families. And then this is their community center in the afternoon. It's like the after-school program. It's also used as a school sometimes, but there's too much capacity, and this one is not a whole building. But the kids, after they come from school, they stay there, and there's somebody from the adults wants to do a workshop, they can do it there. So we did more workshops in that area. As you can see, it's pretty basic. We gave the kids toothbrushes and floss, dental floss, and told them about dental hygiene and how to properly brush your teeth, and they were very excited about with the toothbrushes. And then this is the center where they practice their dances. So these are the same girls you saw dressed up in the Balinese dance costumes. And the boys always play the musical instruments, the gahamsan. So they are always practicing here 3 times a week. So we could get up with them and practice or watch them with the instructors. So like I said, our trips are to Cuba, Bali, India, Macedonia, Nepal, Spain, Belize, and Kenya right now. I lead some of the programs, but they're also led by other people on our board or our team. And I know you had a question about the trips, or nothing particular?
How do you look at locations to add?
We work with the same locations every year.
Okay.
So once we have established a partnership with a local nonprofit, we support them on an ongoing basis, like the farm in Cuba or the Bali Children's Project. So we try to have those solidified before we go into another country. Yes?
When you were just starting out and it was you looking for a volunteer opportunity, did you just go research online for nonprofits there and then make contact with them?
Yes, pretty much. When I was starting out, I didn't know where to go to even find an opportunity for short-term volunteering. Because most of them out there are a couple of months, or you do a project, or you go with Peace Corps. A lot of them are gap year, and I was already in a position where I was an adult and married and home and mortgage and job, so I couldn't take off for a week or two maximum at a time, so I can go on a long-term project. And I can still afford to stay in a nice place. I don't want to experience the hotel, the 5-star Ritz-Carlton kind of ambience every time, but I can afford it if I want to. I also don't want to stay in a hostel. You know, so I was in that situation where I want to the Peace Corps experience without the Peace Corps experience. Yes.
How long are your trips typically?
Our trips are generally 1 to 2 weeks long. Most of them are 1 week. The longest trip we have is to India is 12 days, and Kenya is about 12 days too, 10 to 12 days. Yes.
I remember you said something about microfinancing and supporting some of that, because I think it's really important that we look at sustainability in a lot of these countries and not just coming in and giving them like a one-time solution. But I think your story is really interesting. There's this fund called Seven Fund. Have you heard of them? It's actually about a lot of investment bankers quit their job because they think there's something else, there's more out there, and they go start a nonprofit and work together and build culture and sustainability initiatives in other countries that you're
Oh,
in.
I'll definitely check it out. It's called the Seven Fund.
The Seven Fund.
Okay. Yeah, and hitting on your point, what you said about instead of us going into these communities and telling them, here is what we're going to do, we always partner with a local nonprofit that's already existing, and they have a staff and they have programs, and they tell us what we need to do every time we are there. So that's why things also change. One time we may be there doing nutrition product classes, the other time we are building toilets. But they are telling us, this is what our needs are. Can you help us with this? And then we know that they will be managing the project even after we are gone. It's not going to disappear, or we don't have to manage it all the way from our offices here. Yes.
And how many people typically go on a trip?
We generally have 10 to 15 people on every trip. The smallest we would do is 5 people. We also organize special trips for, say, if you and your staff wants to go or your family wants to go on a trip, we can do that. We ask for a minimum of 5 people.
So how do you fund each trip? Does every volunteer pay for the client, and then you just do fundraising activities to help with the actual project itself?
It's like going with a regular travel agency. So it's a package trip. All your hotels, accommodations, meals, transportation, everything is covered, and there's a staff member who's with you. And a portion of that, the package price you're paying, is also going back into the community, into the project. Monetary donation is made with them. In addition to that, we also do fundraisers throughout the year. So right now, we are raising funds to buy the equipment for the Bali children, for the toilets. And we're selling t-shirts for our India project back there. In India, we support a women's steakhouse. So this is a project we started last year. Michael here is marketing that t-shirt. So the project right now we have is in Calcutta, where women who come out of prostitution or sex trafficking don't have a place to go. They come to the steakhouse, they stay there, and they are given counseling, food, shelter, and also classes on cooking or cleaning or doing nails, hair, whatever they can do to get employment back in the field. So if you were to go with me on my trip to India, you will actually be going into the women's steakhouse and teaching these women about anything that you know how best, and you can teach them. So the fundraising we are doing right now, we just bought some mattresses for the women's shelter a few months ago, and then we are constantly buying things. They need a refrigerator, they need equipment or clothes, especially during the religious times. They need like new clothes for the ceremonies and all of that.
our local programming as well goes to support a lot of those projects. For instance, Destination Turkey that's next week. The ticket price goes to cover the event as well as go towards these projects.
So the tofu is cooked. I just wanted to give you a heads up. And I'm going to put the sauce. Yes. Yes.
Are you concerned about safety?
Generally, no, because we are always going in a group and we work with the local people. So we are almost like a family invited into their home, even though we stay in a 4-star hotel, which is owned by somebody in the local community. But think of it, you're going to a place to visit your relatives. They feel personally obligated to take care of you, to ensure that wherever you're going is safe, and they're always with you too. So you always have a local person as well as a staff member who would go from the US on all of these trips. Yes? Any other questions?
I want to go on campus.
Well, you can. The other thing to note is all of our trips are tax deductible because they are volunteer vacations and we are 501c3. So if you were planning to go on a regular vacation with your family, it's going to cost you a lot more to do a similar kind of trip. Our trip to India runs about $3,600 for 12 nights. It includes everything except for airfare.
Do you have an age restriction? So you have to be between 1975.
It's generally between 18 and above. Depends on the project. For the women's shelter, yes, you have to be 18. For the Bali Children's Project, you can have younger, as long as they are accompanied by an adult, and the kids are mature enough to work.
And then on the high end, like my 77-year-old?
As long as they can move and work and travel. Yeah, we've had the oldest person who's been on our trips was 76 or 78. So if you want to take a second for the sauce recipe, I know all of you have already tried the food, so now you know how to make it. I'm just going to fry the sauce base, add a little bit of water, whisk it, some of the soy sauce, and the lime juice, and salt, and it will be ready in like 5 minutes. You have to continue to cook it. It's going to change into a darker color. And that's the sauce that you can refrigerate or freeze overnight. You can keep it in the fridge for a couple of weeks too. Well, once you have that all going, we just mix everything in a large bowl. You have the tofu, the veggies, and the sauce. And then we garnish it with the sliced cucumbers. So these would be very, very thinly sliced. Smells good, doesn't it? What did you guys think of the food so far? What did you like the best?
It was very well spiced, and you can still taste the coconut oil. So that was
Oh,
What was the noodle white dish with potatoes?
What was that? In the middle of the other dish?
That was really good.
Not the chicken, not the green beans, it's the other
Oh,
one.
that's the chop.
the chop.
Oh, yeah, what it's supposed to be.
And there are different ways to make the chaat. There's aloo chaat, there's papri chaat, there's samosa chaat.
It's with yogurt.
Depends on the ingredients you can move around. Generally, the seasonings are about the same, but you can have chickpeas or potatoes or already prepared samosas in there. And then the Nepali version, of course, would be slightly different. Even if you go try their food, the Indian food, it's a little bit different. Most people would not recognize the differences, but I think people from India would definitely do that.
Can you tell us what else was served? Because I know my dish had a little bit of chicken and something else crispy.
Yes, the crispy one was aloo chaat. That's the one we were talking about, the aloo chaat.
Oh, okay.
And the green beans is Gado Gado. You have some rice, which is what's served with the green beans. You have it as a side with the rice. And then the chicken dish was chicken cholia. And that's a traditional Nepali appetizer. And that's the recipe you can find on the website as well. So I was describing it's like a chili chicken or a tandoori chicken. They're little pieces marinated, and you can boil it first, and then you cook it with the different spices and onions and ginger and garlic. And you serve it with beer or rice. If you're going to do an entree, generally it's served with beer as an appetizer. Yes. So the last thing I want to show you is a video that we just got from our Cuba trips. Like I said, we go to Cuba 3 times a year. Yes, it's legal for Americans to go to Cuba as long as you're going on a humanitarian mission trip with an organization such as ours. So this is a video of a couple of, it was in September last year. This is one of the projects that we do is in Pusterlandia, helping local artist Jose Puster in doing community wall murals. So when you go back, you'll be building more and more on the walls. That's the project in the farm, the co-op. So we went to a cabaret show. We had salsa dancing class. We toured the markets and the artist galleries. We talked to the artists. This is going into the Indian caves. Here's another project we do is with the elderly home at outside of Havana. We take them donations of medical, over-the-counter medicines they need, and we tour the facility. That's actually the oldest lady we've had so far. She loves her Cuban cigars. So Cuban food is also very different than what you find here. Another myth buster is when you go to these countries and you eat like the locals do, you come back to the restaurant in Atlanta and you're like, this is not Cuban food. Where have you been? Basically what happened was most of the Cuban restaurants here are Cuban immigrants who came here 50, 60 years ago, and that's the Cuban food they brought with them. But recently, the Cuban food has evolved because they don't have as much meat left on the island, so they don't have a lot of pork. Beef was considered illegal for a long time, so you could kill a cow. And they started coming up with all these farms growing fresh fruits and vegetables. There's a lot of tropical food. You'll get tropical juices and salads and a lot of fish, seafood diet, rice and beans. And you come back here and you're getting the rice, beans, but then there's a lot of pork. There's a Cuban sandwich, which is non-existent in Cuba right now. We have to really ask people, where do we get a Cuban sandwich? We said, what do you want? So the food has evolved over time now, but what's left here is what used to be Cuban food 60 years ago, and that's very interesting to see when you go back to. Well, are there any more questions for me? I'll be around. You can always reach me. Can you put the last slide? Yes, there is my information. It's my private email is sucheta@goodgive.com. You can reach me if you have any questions, or if you'd like to be involved as a volunteer, or you'd like to go on a trip, you you're considering, or bring your family, your church group, or your friends along. We also do the destination dinners every month. It's a different country. We've never repeated the country. So if you come once, you'll be hooked. You'll keep coming back every month. May 15th is Turkey. We always have a speaker. Our speaker this month is Mustafa Sahin from the Atlantic Institute, and he's going to talk about Islamic relations and American-Turkey businesses. And we'll have belly dancing and a Georgia Tech group perform some authentic Turkish dances, and there'll be a lot of food. Like-minded people. It's a great opportunity to meet other people who are also interested in learning about different cultures. You can sign up on our website at goeatgift.com to receive a newsletter so that you can keep knowledge of what's coming up next in terms of our trips and our programs that we support. We also have a newsletter entry form there, so you can just type in your email address, you can get subscribed. Lastly, we have t-shirts. So they're $20, and all the money goes towards our women's shelter in India that we're starting, which you can go and see yourself if you join me for the trip in November. Well, thank you all for having me.
Everybody enjoy the food and the presentation?
Yes. Yes, we have more food. If you're 1 second, please help yourself.
I think we were all very inspired by the work that Go Eat Give does, and how great is it to leverage your passion into your paycheck, as they say. So it's really great that we had so many board members and volunteers from Go Eat to Give able to join us today. And I heard her say that you need at least 5 people for a tour. So what 4 other people want to come with me? So thank you very much, everybody. And if you have any other questions or would like to buy a t-shirt, they have more information over here. Thank you very much, Sucheta.
Thank you.